A clash of the titans in Texas lies in stores. Chapter 3 of 21 comes from the twists and turns of the Circuit of the Americas, close to the unique buzz of live music capital of the world in Austin. Who will be hitting the right notes over 20 laps? Saddle up for a spectacular show at the Horsepower Rodeo. It's time to race in MotoGP. .51 kilometres, 3.34 miles is the Circuit of the Americas. Best race lap was set here 1 year ago, and Alex Rins won for the LCR Honda team at 203.126. 120,000 fan capacity, the America's first purpose-built Grand Prix facility. 20 corners, fast, change of direction, hard braking. This track has a little bit of everything. 11 left, 9 right corners. As Marc Marquez looks for his 8th victory here. You weave your way through the first sector, hard braking into turn 11, hard braking once again at the end of the long back straight into turn 12. Another overtaking opportunity to turn 19 and 20 before the lap gets completed. Hard braking up the hill into the first corner, as we just mentioned, into turn 11 and 12 as well. And then the Michelin tyres get their most punishing section through turn 16, 17 and 18. Plenty of overtaking hot spots here in COTA in the first gear, turn 1, 11 and 12. And it was right here last year where Luca Marini set up his first ever MotoGP podium, slipping on the inside of Fabio Quartararo. Coming up next then in MotoGP, Maverick Vinales eyes a dream win double as the Top Gun looks to fire himself into early title contention in Texas. Marc Marquez conquered COTA 7 times for Honda, and now his sights are set on a first Ducati win from third. Jorge Martin is setting the early pace in the title race, and the Spaniard is looking to hammer home his advantage from the second row. And rookie Pedro Acosta is ready to take the bull by the horns at the Horsepower Rodeo to fight for a fairy tale first win. So this was the start of yesterday's 10-lap Tissot sprint, wheel spin off the line for world champion Pecco Bagnaia. He eventually took the checker flag in a bitterly frustrating 8th place. Jorge Martin, having had 2 crashes in qualifying, worked his way through after an intense battle with Pedro Acosta and Marc Marquez to take an 11th successive sprint podium to move 24 points clear in the MotoGP World Championship. But one man has been reigning supreme here in COTA so far this weekend. It's been the Top Gun. Can anybody topple him off top spot in Texas, as Vinales made it back-to-back sprint wins yesterday? He was also fastest in this morning's 10-minute MotoGP warm-up session. But now it's the main event. It's time for the Premier Class Grand Prix, coming your way in just about 40 minutes time at the high speed, where there's always high drama as well, Circuit of the Americas in Austin. The stage is set as Marc Marquez, in the live music capital of the world, tries for an 8th victory. Madonna has been playing a live gig here this weekend. Well, who will get into the groove fastest over 20 laps at the Red Bull Grand Prix of the Americas? Top billing so far has gone to Maverick Vinales, who could be just the 3rd rider in the new Sprint Grand Prix era to complete the treble. He goes for it here in Texas this afternoon. An all-time lap record on his way to a brilliant pole position yesterday. That was the perfect platform for his dominant runaway success over 10 laps in the Tissot sprint. What a way it was for Vinales to bounce back from the disappointment of his late heartache in Portimao when he was nailed on for the podium before the late gearbox issue hindered him and saw him DNF at the Algarve International Circuit. It's actually Enea Bastianini now, despite a lowly 6th place in the sprint yesterday, who is the closest rival to Martin in the early title chase. A day to forget yesterday for Brad Binder, who came to COTA 2nd in the standings. Binder crashing in Q1, started 17th on the grid, his worst qualifying since Le Mans 2022. An 11th place in the sprint means he surrendered that 2nd place in the standings. The American fans are out in force, thankfully now, as well, after race day has been dominated by heavy cloud cover. They are soaking up some spring sunshine here. We've seen some Fabio Quartararo fans, seen a stack of 93 flags, t-shirts and caps, and right on cue there. He's certainly not lacking support here at the rodeo. Is Marc Marquez. Back-to-back 2nd places in the Tixo sprint for the Gresini Ducati racing rider. Can he find something to beat Maverick Vinales this afternoon? And what about the teenage sensation, the rookie superstar, Pedro Acosta? In Portimao 3 weeks ago, became the 3rd youngest rider in Premier Class history to stand on a podium, the 1st rider in MotoGP to podium for Gas. 4th in the sprint yesterday. A little bit disappointed that he didn't make the most of his first front row start in just his 3rd Premier Class appearance, but keep an eye on the 19-year-old. You feel that he will be firmly in the mix for back-to-back podiums here in COTA. Talking you through all the action here in North America in this 3rd round of the championship. Matt Burt and Lewis Sitterby in the commentary box, with Jack Appleyard down in pit lane. Thankfully, it looks like the cloud cover is breaking up just at the right time, as we are getting a rather loud air display, as we so often do in this part of the world, as the tension builds in advance of this 20-lap Circuit of the Americas clash. Your front row, pole for Maverick Vinales. Pedro Acosta and Marc Marquez also on that front row. The Tixo sprint podium from yesterday was the Tixo sprint podium from Portimao a couple of weeks ago. And Pecco Bagnaia, Lewis, this was at the end of Q2 yesterday. Wheel spin as he dropped the clutch on that GP24 Ducati. It was a wheel spin issue and subsequent rear grip problems that dumped Pecco way out of podium contention in yesterday's sprint. He was really suffering with a lack of rear grip. Yeah, for someone who told us that he'd had one of his best Fridays in the best part of a year, he had one of his worst Saturdays for a year. Pecco Bagnaia only once previously as he finished lower than that in a Tixo sprint. 8th place for him yesterday, and he's fallen some 28 points behind World Championship leader Jorge Martin. Now, of course, such a long season. So many sprints and races still to go yet before we start talking about decisive championship moments. So Pecco won't be panicking in that respect, but he'll certainly have been concerned by the way the sprint got away from him yesterday. And he'll certainly want to make a better job of the start after those 2 starts. First, the practice went wrong at the end of qualifying, and the real deal went wrong at the beginning of the sprint. Bagnaia fell out of the points early on, and he could only salvage a couple by the time the checker flag came out after 10 laps of Austin. Not a big lover of Austin is Aleix Espargaro. Well, not of the Circuit of the Americas, I think it's fair to say. A plethora of 5 first-gear corners not really suiting his riding style, so 5th place was a pretty solid result yesterday for Aleix Espargaro, as the autograph hunters get the special selfies with the Top Gun, who has been the top rider without any shadow of a doubt so far here this weekend. Maverick Vinales, it's 57 Grand Prix since he last won on a Sunday. The Qatar Grand Prix right at the start of the 2021 World Championship. Only Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin have completed pole, sprint and Grand Prix trebles. And a bit of history potentially beckons for the 29-year-old Spaniard today. Well, you feel coming into the 20-lap Grand Prix that lies ahead of us that he's going to take some beating, because no one saw which way he went really in the Tixo sprint yesterday. Comfortably clear of Marc Marquez and Jorge Martin, who will both surely feel they've got something more for Maverick Vinales later on. As we so often say, coming into a Grand Prix, a very, very different challenge and a very different profile of race ahead of us coming up. Certainly a little bit more management will go on
with many riders, in fact all riders, likely to start on the soft rear tyre this afternoon. So Maverick Vinales might not be able to go gangbusters from the start this time, and I feel like his main competition are going to have to attack him from the start, because I think the one thing they want to make Maverick Vinales do is some chasing.
Living the American dream is what he said yesterday, a dream that he doesn't want to wake up from just yet, does he? Maverick Vinales, it will be some achievement if he does break Ducati's golden streak of 11 successive Grand Prix victories. The last time a non-Ducati triumphed in a main feature Grand Prix in MotoGP, it was a factory Aprilia in the hands of Aleix Espargaro, when he had a sensational weekend in front of his home crowd at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. A very special day for Trackhouse Racing. We've just seen Raul Fernandez, ahead of his 100th Grand Prix start, and Miguel Oliveira come to their pit box. What a day for Trackhouse Racing. Their first home Grand Prix here at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. I'm delighted to say, joining Jack down in the paddock right now is the boss, Justin Marks.
Justin, what a day it is for the team. First ever American Grand Prix. Just what are the nerves like right now?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of confidence in this team. I mean, this is a weekend that's been circled on the calendar, obviously, since the very first conversation about this opportunity. So I think what's been great about this entire week is that we've really been able to get the NASCAR side of our business and the GP side of our business together. We had all the mechanics from the MotoGP team in North Carolina this week in the factory, and we brought a lot of the NASCAR folks this weekend to experience MotoGP for the first time. So really kind of like a coming out party for Trackhouse here in America, and I just continue to be humbled by the opportunity and really excited about our future.
A big week, of course, for both riders, Raul and Miguel, but so far they've delivered. Raul were fantastic yesterday with those first sprint points. I'm sure you were delighted to see that. Yeah,
I've been telling people, it just seems like every week, since the first test, every event since the first test, we've just been getting a little bit better and a little bit better as we learn the bike. Miguel learns the new bike. Raul is starting to match his just raw talent and speed with his management of the bike and management of the races. Obviously it was a great deal for him to get a point yesterday. It's his 100th moto race today, so we're looking for big things out of him, but it's nice that the pace is coming. The Aprilia bike is really working well, and we just will continue to work hard and get better.
Great to see you here. I hope it's a good one for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, great to hear from Justin Marks. Great to have an American team of the stature of Trackhouse Racing participating in MotoGP and participating in their first home Grand Prix. He needs security to get him through the paddock, doesn't he, here in Austin? He is been adopted by the American fans. He's loved here in COTA, and for very good reason. He's a 7-time winner here previously, Marc Marquez. He was undefeated in that amazing run between 2013 and 2018. Right here, of course, on that unforgettable first visit to COTA 11 years ago now. Where has that time gone? He did become the youngest ever Premier Class rider in history, taking that accolade away from American legend Freddie Spencer. Sort of, I'm not saying casting doubt or being too pessimistic on his chances of beating Maverick Vinales over the full 20 laps today, but he knows he's got a big job on Lewis if he is to make it an 8th win here in COTA, given the relentless speed and consistency that Vinales has shown in every session so far.
Well, Marc Marquez didn't have the best of feeling early on in the Tissot sprint. He got better as the sprint went on, and he did sort of save something for the latter stages when Pedro Acosta came through on him initially for second place. Marc Marquez decided that was the moment to start to use everything he had in that softer rear tyre, and second place in the end. Of course, his best sprint result so far for Marc Marquez, still yet to taste a sprint win, but this is the Grand Prix of the Americas. This is COTA. Do not write off Marc Marquez.
And it's a special weekend for Marc as well, because it's his 250th Grand Prix start here today, and he would love nothing more, would he, than returning to the throne, reclaiming the crown as the King of COTA. Today is 903 days since he was last victorious in MotoGP, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Misano back in 2021. Not far away from Ducati. This was some wonderful scenes. This is why we love MotoGP. Marc Marquez making one young fan's dream come true. This was at the end of a very special Tissot sprint podium ceremony, right after he'd taken a hard-fought second place. That young fan will never, ever forget Super Saturday in Austin in 2024. Marc, you absolute hero, you absolute legend. That young fan was given, I think, a signed T-shirt. He also got one of Marc's knee sliders as well. they're not just the fastest riders in the world, they are the class guys off the circuit as well. That was brilliant. A day that one young American fan is never ever going to forget in his life.
And they are heroes and idols to many millions across the world, because they are the best motorcycle races on earth. And this is the fastest at the moment, the World Championship leader, Jorge Martin, who maintained his 100% record of finishing on every sprint or race podium so far in 2024, with another third place yesterday in the Tissot Sprint. He's had a sprint win, a race win, and 3 third places in the 5 starts he's had so far. It's that kind of run that wins World Championships. Now, of course, we're an awful long way from the moment where that kind of talk needs to come into play, but Jorge Martin has done very little wrong so far. The only thing he really did wrong this weekend was in qualifying 2, when he made those 2 mistakes. That is why he starts from 6th place on the grid and will be requiring a good start this afternoon to bring himself on terms with Vinales on pole.
A distant 15th in the Tissot Sprint yesterday, not the way Fabio Quartararo envisaged, celebrating his new 2-year contract with the factory Yamaha team. That was the big news in the Easter break before we headed across the Atlantic from Portugal to Austin. Quartararo was 15 seconds away from the win in the sprint. He said this weekend he's not ridden the same Yamaha spec on each of his exits. Time for radical experiments with setups. No time to be conservative, no time to play it safe now as Yamaha play the catch-up game. And Fabio Quartararo, you do wonder what motorcycle he'll have underneath him. Say it will be a Yamaha, of course, but in what guise? Because they are running some quite experimental different settings here to try and find a development direction with the Wisdar M1. And of course, alongside Fabio Quartararo, a rider who is certainly worth mentioning when we're in this part of the world, because he also has a love affair with COTA. It's 28-year-old Spaniard Alex Rins, who's done something here that not even Marc Marquez has managed. He's won twice in COTA for 2 different manufacturers. Suzuki in 2019, last year for LCR Honda. It will be something of a surprise and shock if he makes it 3 for Yamaha here this afternoon. And Brad Binder in damage limitation mode once again, Lewis. A real poor Saturday for the South African. Second in the standings coming here to COTA after a superb opening in Qatar. Tough Portimao, and so far a very tough COTA as well.
No points in his last 2 sprints now for Brad Binder, who has been on his back foot really since Friday afternoon, when a poor practice session left him outside the top 10. It landed him in the jungle, as it's termed, of qualifying 1. Was unable to get through after a crash during that session. That put him 17th on the grid, and if you have a poor Friday, or if you find yourself outside the top 10 on Friday, it is so difficult to recover your weekend from there. Brad Binder is still trying to recover it. Made a very good start, as he so often does, yesterday in the sprint. Got himself onto the tail of Pecco Bagnaia actually on that first lap. Was in around 10th or 11th place, but couldn't go any further forward from there. No points for Brad Binder, and he lost 2nd place in the championship as a result.
In COTA history, after our memorable first visit here in 2013, only 3 riders have won in 10 Grand Prix here in COTA. We just saw one of them on your screens. The Beast, looking for former glory here. He was the winner here, wasn't he, in 2022? Ricky Brabec, the 2020 and 2024 Dakar Rally winner, guest of Honda, soaking up the pre-race atmosphere here. Unfortunately, having Honda winning 8 of those 10 COTA Grand Prix, 2nd place used to be a dismal result for Honda in COTA. Well, a top 15 would be a bonus for HRC Lewis this weekend, because their woeful run goes on. 3 DNFs in the sprint yesterday. Luca Marini, the only Honda rider that saw the checkered flag. Pretty average, well, more than average in qualifying. If a Honda rider is anywhere near the top 6 today, it will be one of the shocks of the last decade, let alone the season so far.
He'll be one of the shocks of the century. They need certainly an awful lot of attrition to bring them anywhere near, I think, a top 10, let alone a top 6. For the 2nd Grand Prix in a row, the 4 Hondas occupy the back 4 spots on the grid. For the 3rd Grand Prix in a row, if you want a positive from a Honda point of view, John Zarco was the quickest among them. And Zarco doing a very solid job so far with the Castrol LCR Honda squad. So the pit lane opens then. 25 minutes to go until the race gets underway for the sighting lap, and we'll shortly get an idea of what kind of tyre strategies are being planned for the Grand Prix. Some suggestions that there might be a little bit of variety out there in terms of tyre suggestion. We saw Pecco Bagnaia experimenting this morning, running the same soft rear tyre that he ran in the Tissot Sprint yesterday. It's not a race where the rear tyre takes a necessary pounding compared to some of the other tracks we go to. The front tyre in particular here is really put under stress. But tyre management will come into play over the course of this 20-lap Grand Prix. It always does, and will certainly provide the riders with a different challenge to the Sprint 24 hours ago.
The buzzwords out of Bagnaia's mouth this weekend have been revenge and redemption at the rodeo, because right here, dropping down through turn 2 last year on lap 8, when he was cruising to the treble, he lost the front going down the hill into turn number 2. That gifted the win to LCR Honda rider Alex Rins. Now then, there are so many American legends that have gathered here this weekend at the Circuit of the Americas. I'm delighted to say we're about to hear from another one of them as well, 1999 world champion Kenny Roberts Jr., who joins Jack.
He does, yeah. He's just actually been doorstepped by Massimo Rivola, who's just coming across and saying hello. So I'll let these two catch up and just see if I can dive in and grab the word with Kenny. Kenny, fantastic to see you here this weekend. Looks like you've been enjoying the action as well. What have you made of it so far?
I need a sign. It's awesome. Maybe I'm in Europe.
He's just catching up with Massimo Rivola. Yeah. What do you want him? What's he wanting you to sign?
He's got one of my helmets. Apparently, I was fast in my day.
You certainly were. What do you make of the guys nowadays as well? What do you make of the action?
Well, with the aerodynamics and everything, it's just, it's made it just kind of crazy with the outside influence on the bike, other than the engine and the tires and suspension, right? So it's just another element that seems to be quite important at the moment.
From what you saw in the sprint yesterday, how do you see this one panning out? Just as we're stood here, the sun is really starting to beat down now.
I'd like to see the race at the front for, the fans to be more interesting. So I know the aerodynamics and the tire wear can kind of keep the race, smooth in the middle of it, but at the end it'd be nice to see a couple-way fight for a win.
Yeah, we absolutely all want to see that. Kenny, great to see you here. Hope you enjoy the race.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to KRJR. Of course, he was the world champion for Suzuki in 2000. It was Alex Crivillé who won the 1999 500cc World Championship to become the first Spaniard ever to win the Premier Class crown. He was a proper trailblazer, wasn't he, Alex Crivillé? As he mentioned, Kenny Roberts Jr. is here. His father, Kenny Roberts, is here. Triple world champion back in the late 70s. His career defined by that unbelievable rivalry with the late great Barry Sheen. Kevin Schwantz is here, of course, 1993 world champ. John Kaczynski is knocking around the paddock. I think it's John Kaczynski's first visit to a Grand Prix since he stepped away from MotoGP towards the back end of the 1990s. So welcome back, John. Good to see him. Former 250cc king, triple 500cc world champion Wayne Rainey is here. They're all enjoying the atmosphere. And a bit of tension as well, which is, you feel it's in the air, it's starting to build here now as the American flag waves proudly at the top of the hill into the first corner. Hopefully in the not too distant future, we've got an American team racing in the MotoGP World Championship with Trackhouse Racing. With all due respect to Miguel Oliveira and Ralph Fernandez, I think there's a lot of hopes that maybe Joe Roberts will be making his way into Trackhouse Racing at some point in the future, whether that be in 2025. Well, that will all be sorted out over the next few weeks and months or so as we pick up the pole man, Batman. Batman, who has been the fast man. He's been the top man, hasn't he, all weekend here in COTA. He's only podium in 7 previous Premier Class starts here in Texas, was a second in 2018. One of several riders about to stand next to Marc Marquez on the podium, as the number 93 usually just turned up and got the job done. It used to be a case when we came to COTA of jumping on the plane and thinking, well, who's going to finish second to Marc Marquez? How times have changed.
Well, Batmav will be hoping to create a Hollywood sequel this afternoon after his sprint win yesterday, looking to officially become the first different rider to win on 3 different manufacturers. Of course, we've already seen Maverick Vinales triumphant for Suzuki and Yamaha in the past, but we're yet to see him take a full-length victory on board an Aprilia hasn't won since the very first round of 2021. Will that run finally end for Maverick Vinales here this afternoon? Let's take a look at the grid then. Maverick Vinales on pole from Pedro Acosta and Marc Marquez. Medium front, medium rear for the front row starters. Pecco Bagnaia, Enea Bastianini and Jorge Martin on the second row, all on the soft rear tyre. Aleix Espargaro starts 7th from Fabio Di Gianantonio and Frankie Morbidelli. Marco Bezzecchi 10th from Jack Miller and Alex Marquez. He's had a bit of a mixed bag of a weekend, but he did come through qualifying 1. Raul Fernandez, Miguel Oliveira and Alex Rins on the 5th row. Fabio Quartararo 16th. Brad Binder looking to launch a combat mission from 17th ahead of Augusto Fernandez, and our quartet of Hondas at the back of the field. Zarco leads Mir, Nakagami and Marini.
That is quite a fascinating split, isn't it, in terms of the rear tyre pick for the top 6 riders on the grid. Same combination on the front row, Maverick Vinales, Marc Marquez and Pedro Acosta with the medium rear. Second row, Bastianini, Bagnaia and Martin with the soft rear tyre. I'm delighted. So let's go and hear from a man who's been running riot at the rodeo so far this weekend. The Palmer Maverick Vinales joins Jack.
Maverick, thanks for joining us. What a weekend you've been having so far. How do you feel ahead of the race?
Well, I feel really good, honestly. Can't wait to leave the clutch and go and put a great performance on it. Obviously, that's kind of the weekend you really always dream to have. So we're gonna try to accomplish the goal. And then, however it goes, we must be happy and positive, and we must grow up for the future.
It looks like it might be a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to tyre choice. What are you going for, and how do you see the race planning out?
I really don't know what we are going for. Obviously, with both choices, I'm fast. This morning with the medium rear, the feeling was extremely good, so we don't know yet. We're gonna see. Obviously, looks like the front row is medium rear and the second row soft. Weather is hot. I don't know how it's gonna work, but with both tires, we have the chance.
Maverick, all the best. Have a great race.
Thank you.
Yeah, running get that. Jack talking to poleman Maverick Vinales down there on the grid. The Houston Texan cheerleaders from the NFL team whipping up the atmosphere with their special pre-race routine at the head of the grid. That is downtown Austin, which, trust us, will be rocking tonight. It is the live music capital of the world. Might partake in a couple of beverages in downtown later on this evening. Pedro Acosta, first front row in the MotoGP World Championship, just getting some late words from his crew chief Paul Trevathan there with the headset. As we mentioned, it's an interesting split as it stands right now. It could change, of course. We're still about 20 minutes away from lights out for the 20-lap Red Bull Grand Prix of the Americas. But the front row, medium front, medium rear. Second row, medium front, soft rear.
Which could create an interesting dynamic as we go through the race, particularly early on. Will we see those soft rear tyre runners going on the attack early on and attacking those on the medium rear at the front of the field early on? Of course, there is still time for them to change. Of course, Maverick Vinales, as you heard there, is armed with that same information that we are, that the riders on the road behind him have gone for a different tyre combination. So we'll give you up-to-date information as the warm-up lap begins if any of those riders on the front 2 rows have decided to deviate from their current plan.
You're looking at Aleix Espargaro, who I'm sure you know at home, but he is the last rider that actually beat a Ducati in a Grand Prix all the way back in Catalonia last September. Is today the day that another Aprilia returns to the top step. Some vantage point there, not for the faint-hearted with the clear glass floor, but it gives you an unparalleled view of the whole of this 1,500-acre wonderful motorsport complex here on the outskirts of downtown Austin. Well then, there's so many expectations. Can Marc Marquez make it 8 wins here in COTA? Can he win for the first time at Gresini Ducati? Well, one man who knows his potential better than anybody else is Mark's crew chief, Frankie Carcetti, who joins Jack.
Frankie, thanks for joining us. Mark, yesterday saying it was a complicated race. Things didn't really go his way. It looks as though the next few laps ahead of us are going to be even more complicated. Tyre choice, a huge question mark. How's he feeling going into it?
Yeah, every session we've managed to improve. We had a slight technical yesterday, which sure didn't help. But this morning everything was okay. But like you said, the big thing at the moment is the rear tyre choice. I think you'll see a bit of a 50-50 in the race. So it's one of those things. There's no magic crystal, so we'll see which one works out better.
It should make it interesting. Good luck.
Thanks, buddy. Bye.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. Thanks to Frankie Carcetti. There is the instantly recognisable, the absolutely brilliant race-winning prize up for grabs. That will be decided in about an hour's time, won't it? Who will be lifting the bull bars here alongside the Tower of Champions as we get set for the pre-race grid summary coming up very, very shortly. Just briefly, in that same shot there were 9-time COTA winners, Marc Marquez and Alex Rins. Marquez just seeking some shade in pit lane as he just keeps the focus, keeps the composure. Would love to know what's going through the mind now of the 8-times world champion. He knows better than anybody what it takes to win here in COTA. On a Honda, well, he could tie one hand behind his back and blindfolded, and he could still win here. He was that good. It's no exaggeration. But Marc Marquez seeking his own personal sanctuary here in the zone. I would love to know what he's thinking about right now. Well, he's obviously thinking about making it 8 wins here in COTA, and he's obviously thinking about how you go about doing that. Is Massimo Rivola a Aprilia boss? Kenny Roberts Jr. fan, obviously, trying to get a Arai helmet from Junior signed. Massimo Rivola, he has seen Aleix Espargaro take Aprilia back to the top step of the podium in MotoGP. Will he see Maverick Vinales become their second ever MotoGP race winner?
Well, it's all up in the air, isn't it, at this stage, with the tyre split amongst the front 2 rows as the riders seek the sanctuary of pit lane to steer clear of all of the razzmatazz on the grid with the Houston Texans cheerleaders. The national anthem will be coming up in around about 4 minutes time, which is always enough to get the goosebumps up on your arms when the Star Spangled Banner is performed on the grid. That's coming up very, very shortly too. 20 laps coming up at the Circuit of the Americas, and the tyre strategy certainly has thrown an added element into what was already an intriguing Grand Prix of the Americas.
Yeah, Frankie Carcetti there saying the entire grid, it could be a 50-50 split between the soft and the medium. Well, we know at the moment, or the early graphic was a clear 50-50 split between the first 2 rows, the top 6. Marc Marquez in his own little world right now, isn't he? Nobody's got anywhere near him, nobody dares disturb him as he just gets himself fired up, gets himself ready for the 20 laps that are coming up here in about, what, 15 minutes time. The crowd are full of anticipation, they're full of expectation, just as I'm sure you are watching all the way around the world. You've got the best seat in the house for this Red Bull Grand Prix of the Americas. 3rd youngest rider in Premier Class history to podium, the only teenager in the modern MotoGP 4-stroke era to finish on a Premier Class podium. As Marc Marquez, I've never seen this actually before. No. From Marc Marquez, sort of seek his own personal sanctuary away from the humdrum of the grid, posing big opposition in this COTA Grand Prix to Marquez's aspirations will be the factory Ducati stars and Bastianini COTA winner here in 2022 and Pecco Bagnaia. Let's get some thoughts from their team boss Davide Tardozzi.
Davide, you told us this morning that Pecco went out in warm-up with the race tyre from the sprint. What did that experiment teach you, and how are both Pecco and Enea feeling ahead of the race?
Yeah, we went out with Enea with the medium to see what was the performance of this tyre, while Pecco want to bring on track again the race tyre of yesterday to understand with a different setting if it works in a different way, but it's no, the answer is no, so we changed the tyre, we maintain the same setting of yesterday, then we see what it's going to be today. So it will be very interesting to see if the soft tyre will perform for the long race without down of grip, while some competitors will be on medium on the back to be more safe. So it will be very interesting after mid-race what it's going to be.
Davide, all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Davide Tardozzi. A couple of proper American legends getting ready for the pre-race ceremony, the national anthem. Freddie Spencer and Kenny Roberts, who had a pretty bitter and intense rivalry back in the day. All seems like that's forgotten, and they're friends rather than foes now down on the grid. Always a special moment, isn't it, when we get the Star Spangled Banner ring out around the circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, trying to keep himself cool with the wet towel there. Pecco Bagnaia taking some liquids on board. Jose Manu Casal, Maverick Vinales' crew chief, he's been in a long, deep discussion for quite some time, hasn't he, with Maverick Vinales. Are they maybe even thinking or pondering a late rear tyre switch here? Came to the grid, Vinales, planning to go for the treble here in Texas with the medium front, medium rear tyre. Is he being swayed, though, maybe by a change in temperature? There is a stiff wind that's blowing around this COTA circuit right now, as we will very, very shortly pause for the rendition of the American national anthem, which is coming your way right now ahead of the Red Bull Grand Prix of the Americas.
Dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Whoa, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Enough to send a shiver down your spine. Kimberly Dunn performing the Star-Spangled Banner. Straight down to the grid then. Jack Miller starts from 11th on the grid. He's giving his thoughts to Jack Appleyard.
Jack, the sun really starting to beat down now here on the Austin grid. How are you feeling ahead of the race?
Feeling good. The wind's also picked up a little bit. Pretty similar to what we've had the last couple of days. So we'll see what we can do. Looking forward to it.
What do you think is going to be crucial here?
Everything. Tyre life, as always, around here in Austin. I mean, we're going the same options as yesterday, but the strategy will definitely be different than what it was yesterday. So we'll have to wait and see. I've been here, done it a few times, so fingers crossed I get it right this once.
Jack, all the best. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, thanks to Jack and Jack down on the grid. So Jack Miller going from 11th on the grid. It's going to be an uphill struggle for the factory KTMs. Miller from 11th, Brad Binder from 17th. The ice-cool stare of Marc Marquez, who has got himself in the zone. That moment of isolation and silence in the pit lane. He now joins the hustle and bustle of the grid, where he sits on the front row. Third place for Marc Marquez. He has just the rookie Pedro Acosta and the sprint winner Maverick Vinales up ahead of him. Immediately behind him, the two World Championship challengers of last season, sandwiching a former COTA winner in Enea Bastianini. The heavyweights are on the front two rows. Tyre strategy is up in the air, and we're all set to decide the Grand Prix of the Americas. 20 laps of intriguing action are just a few minutes away.
We are in the Texas state capital, and you can cut the atmosphere with a knife down there on the grid. It has properly ramped up over the last 10 minutes or so as we count down towards kickoff here in COTA. Pedro Acosta already ripping up the record books. in his first 2 races in the MotoGP World Championship. It was right here in COTA where Marc Marquez took Freddie Spencer's record to become the youngest ever MotoGP race winner. Will it be right here in COTA that Pedro Acosta seizes that record, that accolade away from Marc Marquez? Marquez trying to be the 9th rider in MotoGP to win for 2 different factories. Alex Rins, Jack Miller, Andrea Dovizioso, Casey Stone and Maverick Vinales, the pole setter, Jorge Lorenzo, Max Biaggi and Valentino Rossi have all done it. Prima Pramac Racing have had a stunning start to 2024. Jorge Martin has yet to finish off the podium so far this season. That's the key reason why he sits 24 points clear of the World Championship. Let's get some thoughts of their boss, Fonzie Nieto, who joins Jack.
Fonzie, Jorge, the World Championship leader, 5 races, 5 podiums. What's going to be the plan here?
Try to stay on the bike because for sure 20 laps here is going to be very difficult, especially with the rear tire. It's different choices in the first 2 rows. For sure it's hard race with this condition, with this track, these 20 corners. We have to keep concentrated till the end because for sure it's a long race today.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks ever so much, Jack. Thanks to Fonzie Nieto. Can he maintain this incredible 100% podium start? 3 Tissot sprints in 2024. 3 Tissot sprint medals for Jorge Martin. And a podium in Qatar. And his first win of the season in dominant fashion. A start-to-finish victory last time out at the Algarve International Circuit in Portimao. That's why he's rocked up in COTA in a position of supremacy. He gained 6 points on the field at the end of the 10-lap Tissot sprint yesterday. So it's going to have to be a pretty disastrous afternoon for Jorge Martin to lose the lead in the World Championship heading to the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez in 2 weeks' time. Will we be saying in Jerez in 2 weeks' time that Marc Marquez has won for Honda and he is now a race winner for Gresini Ducati? Well, that is all about to unfold. The BMW safety car streaks away from the front of the grid. That means only one thing: we are 5 minutes away from race start here in the Red Bull Grand Prix of the Americas. Your front row of the grid, Maverick Vinales on pole position for the 15th time in the Premier class. Could be podium number 75 in the 29-year-old Spaniard's career. The grid then now starts to clear. It's going to be left to rider and machine. There's been a late switch here tyre choice wise. Marc Marquez originally coming to the grid with a medium rear tyre. He's on the soft rear tyre. So your heavyweight front row of the grid here in COTA. Marc Marquez goes from 3rd, looking for an 8th win. Pedro Acosta's first ever MotoGP front row start in 2nd. But Maverick Vinales looking for some more magic in Texas. He's on pole.